Next item, okay, 3D, I got you now, sorry, thank you. We have heard all of the blue and yellow cards pertaining to this matter. I thank you for your input, I sincerely do. I'd like to say a couple of things. I've been holding my tongue, letting everybody else speak. I want to say about Mr. Mullins that I respect him tremendously. I know he has, I think the word was the blueprint of Lake Helen in his head. I know that his legacy knowledge is unparalleled. Knowledge is one thing. I know his integrity. I believe in his integrity and his honesty and his love for this city. I truly do. He worked hard for this city for 27, however many years it was exactly. He worked hard for this city every day, and I know that. And he was neck deep in every water hole the city created in all that time. And I don't discredit that in any way, shape, or form. I know all of that good that he brings to this table. So please don't take my desire to explore all the options here as in any way a negative to Mr. Mullin. It's not. Flip side of that, and just because communication, we talk about communication being part of the problem that we have here, the only time we can communicate is here in public meeting. I do believe that when Mr. Cook was here and asked Mr. Mullin if he would be willing to work here, and his answer was, it depends. I get that, and I understand your hesitancy, and I understand as much as anybody can understand, the tension here. And you're looking for full support of the commission, and wanting to know you have that because you don't feel, I think it's because you don't feel you have the support of the administrator. And I think that it would be a mistake for us to hire a department head who wants to work for us and not for the city administrator, and to bypass that chain of command. I'm not saying he couldn't or wouldn't, but that's the way it seems to be going right now. I do believe that the consultant concept could be quite beneficial if we hire Mr. Mullin as a consultant and we're able to access his knowledge and understanding of how this all can and should work. That might be a great way to go, and I'm definitely willing to explore that option. I do believe we need to hire a public works director to start directing our public works. We need to get somebody in-house doing this job, all the parts of this job. Kicking this can down the road for a particular license or a particular person is a mistake. I think we need to get somebody as soon as we reasonably can. Somebody that can manage the entire department. So I would not be in favor of the motion that's before us.
So you're voting before the vote's called for?
I'm sorry.
You just voiced your vote out to the public before the vote's even called for. That shows very lack of integrity and ethics.
I was speaking about, I'm sorry.
And you voted before the vote was called. You said, I would not be for this. That's a vote. You're not allowed to vote until the vote is called for. You're influencing the vote. That's against the law.
I'm sorry. Speaking in favor or against the motion is against the law? When
you actually make a comment that shows your vote for or against, it's against the law.
You're against it.
That's right. On the face of it, that's absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry. That's just ridiculous. To say that I can't voice my opinion as
you
one
can
of
voice
the
your opinion
commissioners on the dais.
How you do it?
Well, two things. One,
I think it's time that the city get back in.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Acker. Commissioner Ecker.
Hey, you don't have to
I
respect
am
all of us.
allowed to recognize or not recognize speakers. I am in charge of running the meeting. I don't like it any more than you like it, but it's my job. Somebody has to do the job.
When you
I am not recognizing you to speak right now. I am answering, first of all, I'm speaking against the motion. I'm allowed to speak against, no. I
You're
allow,
only 1/5.
would you please let me talk? I'm saying please, I don't have to say please. I don't know what the Robert's Rules of Order allow me to do, but at some point, I have to be able to shout it. Oh, please, come on, stop being disruptionist for the simple sake of disrupting. What I am attempting to do, we allowed everyone to speak, all of the blue cards, all the yellow card that was also on this agenda item. I allowed all of the commissioners to speak several times. And then I was speaking also in reference to the motion on the floor. That to me seems like a very reasonable order for the meeting to take. I don't know what you would want me to do other than that. Would you like me to not let anybody speak until I've spoken? Or would you like me to let everybody speak?
You're not allowed to make comments that indicate what your vote is.
Why do you think I am not allowed to make comments about what my opinion is? That's
I
so
didn't say
sad.
that your opinion, you're not make comments about what your vote is going to be.
You voted.
You voted already.
That is not true.
It is, I
It
saw
is
it.
not true.
I saw it.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I can't just have y'all shouting from the gallery as to what's legal and what's not. Since we have a legal question before us, I will address it to the city attorney. Is a commissioner, would the mayor be allowed to speak for or against a motion?
The mayor, not commissioners.
We voted.
Prior to a vote.
Yes, there's not, I've seen it numerous times where elected officials or appointed officials on boards will express their opinion about the motion.
But are they allowed to say, I am going to turn this down, or I'm going to...
They can absolutely say, this is why I cannot support this motion, or this is why I'm supporting this motion. They can do that. I've never heard.
And the mayor is supposed to be the neutral person out of everybody up here, so...
No, I'm not supposed to be neutral.
The mayor has a voting right in this city. Some mayors only run the meeting and they don't vote, but here, the mayor has the right to vote, just like any other commissioner.
I have a right to vote and I have a right to express my opinion about what that vote is. And I'm doing that. I think it would be irresponsible of me not to. So, back to where we were. We have a motion before us. I'm addressing that motion, and I will continue to address that motion. I do believe that I said reorganize my thoughts here. Talk about Mr. Mullins and what he brings to the table. Your motion that's before us is designed, I believe, to get Mr. Mullins fired. That was what you stated in discussion.
That was a recommendation, that was not part of the motion.
I know it's not a part of the motion, but in discussion, you indicated that was the reason for. Again, I'm not trying to mischaracterize anything. I'm not trying to mischaracterize what you said. If I have, I apologize. I'm trying to address what you said in all of your discussion, not simply the motion as the one sentence motion, but the reasoning behind it. When you were declaring your reasoning behind it, you said we have a qualified candidate here in-house, if I believe was the phrase you used.
And that was an answer to somebody's question about the qualifications and if any of the applicants that we had were qualified. And I said, yes, we had one, and I pointed out which one.
Okay, now I'm going to go back to, I let you speak. I let all of the commissioners speak who desire to speak. I let everybody who came to the dais speak. I tried to do that without interruption. There was some discussion back and forth during everybody speaking. I was trying to be cordial all the way around and allow people in a conversational way to address this. I would like to be allowed to make my point without being interrupted every half sentence. My points are, again, the positives about Mr. Mullins and what he brings to the table, I think, are strong. He does bring a lot to the table. I don't want to dismiss that or discredit him or these qualifications and strengths he has in any way, shape, or form. I feel quite strongly about it. He brings a lot to the table. I do believe that we are here today because, it's not so much that I believe, we are here today because things broke down. Understanding all of the history in that is impossible because most of it was behind closed doors. I have spoken with Mr. Mullins, I've spoken with Mr. Evett. There are two sides to the story, as there are with every story. There were problems, it broke down, and Mr. Mullins left his employment here in the city. That's something we can't ignore. Generally speaking, unless you have dramatically changed things, simply restarting them is not going to fix the problem. I think it would be a mistake to simply restart this the way it is. Looking at maybe changing it to a consultant type of agreement, that might work. That's changing things, putting a different structure and creating a different chain of command, if you will, that might be an actual solution to the problems that led to the initial breakdown here. But we got to this initial breakdown with Mr. Mullins in that position. I think rehiring him back into that position would be a mistake. Again, my opinion, 1 vote out of 5. I wanted to state those opinions and let y'all know here on the dais where I stood. Let those listening that care to listen know where I stood as well, just as everyone else here did. As just simply part of the conversation. I'm not dictating. I'm not trying to be a dictator in any way, shape, or form. I'm trying to be part of the conversation. The motion before us is to man, I don't know why I can't remember this motion. Mr. Eckert, if you would restate your motion.
To turn down all applications that are before us.
The motion is to turn down all applications before us. The second from Commissioner Eckert, it was seconded by Commissioner Bassett. Is there any further discussion on this motion?
Yeah, I'd like to amend it to what our next step is. Are we going to put it back out for? What's our next step? Are we going to put it back out? I mean, to me, it's final. We're done here, but we're not really done with the job. So I'd like to see you.
We need to do some work before it gets back out. We need to go through this job description and remove any conflicts that are in it so that we don't have a problem with it.
And then put it back out again? Okay.
If I could add one thing, just so we're clear on the charter. Anybody who is hired as an employee or department head per the charter is under the supervision and answers to the administrator.
I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat that, please?
Any employee, any department head that's hired as an employee of the city per the charter is under the supervision and answers supervised by the department head. The charter would prohibit the individual commissioners from getting involved with a department head or employee in direction. However, if you do the consulting agreement, it's not an employee. And the consulting agreement can be set up where the commission as a whole, or I guess theoretically it could be set up where we could delegate one commissioner to be a liaison with the consultant, and the consultant would answer to the commission. But if it's an employment situation, you can't do that. They have to answer to the another supervision of the administrator. But we do have flexibility if you do the consulting position, because that's not an employee.
Thank you. So we have, it's a reasonable question as to where this vote will take us. If we accept this motion and discard, for lack of a better word, discard all of the applicants. We'd be basically back to square one, in my opinion. We'd be rewriting our next advertisement for our next batch of applicants. Now we might, I'm not discounting what you're saying, that we revisit all of the details that go into making that happen. And that's what you're asking, that's what you're wanting to have happen. I get that. And I don't need to restate what you said. But that's where we are. So, knowing where we are, having discussed it thoroughly for an hour and a half, I will call the question. Zone 1.
Yes.
Zone 2.
Yes.
Zone 3.
Yes.
Zone 4.
No.
And I vote no. Motion carries. All applicants are discarded. Take a moment here and look at.
Mr. Mayor, I need to dismiss the 2 candidates.
Can't hear you.
He has,
Actually, I need to.
okay. Yes. We're going down to dismiss the candidates that we're here waiting to be spoken to.
I can do the next part of it.
No, you can't.
Well, I'm going to anyway.
No, you can't, sir. That's not on the agenda. We
Our
can't.
current job description presented by
Sir,
Evans.
sir, you are not
Ready and
recognized.
consistency at our next available workshop.
At the next meeting, you can ask to have something put on the agenda. That is not on the agenda. If you want to...
I'm sorry, it is in Robert's rules and it can be done, and I did it. You cannot deny a Robert's rules or properly made motion.
What? I can follow the agenda
You
as
can.
written, and
And
when it
the
comes to...
agenda leaves it open to add in motions and everything else, and this ties into what we just dealt with.
When you're...
And there's a next step to it. Just because we are in disagreement on so many things, and you don't like it, and you cannot handle confrontation.
Oh yeah, no, I can't handle it all. That's why I'm sitting here handling it day after day.
Well, that's why you're always stopping people from voicing their opinions.
No, I'm stopping people from taking over the meeting when it's not their job to run the meeting.
Anyway, I made a motion to rework our current job description presented by D. Abbott to remove any consistency.
And if you would like
So
to...
that we can go on and get out a proper job hiring advertising.
So, when we did it last time, and you didn't do that then,
Because I didn't know the city was going to submit what they did, and I had to go through it and see what was in it and compare it to what the requirements were before I could make an opinion. And I just got done doing it this past week. This is the first meeting we've had since that occurred. And I'm bringing it to our attention now so that we can get it done, so we can get the hiring process back in line.
okay, so you have done all of your preparation for this, and I'm trying to think of the right word, I'm blanking on the word here. I believe that we should create this as, I'm sorry, what?
You can't turn down the motion. It can be done if nobody seconds it.
Well, the reality is,
You cannot deny a motion that was properly made, even though you attempted to interfere with it. The only thing you do is wait for a second.
you're right, I need to do more research on my Robert's Rules of Order, because I need to know exactly what I can and can't do here more thoroughly. I didn't, usually when it's a collegial and cooperative effort, you're not required to work under strict letter of the law, and you can have some flexibility. But when you have somebody who's trying to take over and run meetings from their own agenda entirely, then I guess it is incumbent on me to learn those rules of order and understand how to properly adjudicate these things. With the charter understanding that the ultimate Robert's Rules of Order control is, I believe, left to the city attorney as to what's allowable under Robert's Rules of Order in I guess I need to turn it over to you to ask for a ruling, if you will, as to whether or not a commissioner can make a motion that is not an agenda item at any point during a meeting.
It ties in with the first item on the agenda.
The thing that would actually control is the sunshine law, and the sunshine law does not require an agenda. The sunshine law does not prohibit us from adding things to the agenda to be discussed during the meeting. So from that perspective, it is permissible to add things to the agenda that are not on the agenda.
Okay.
It's consistent with the sunshine law.
It's consistent with the sunshine law, and I understand and appreciate that point. As far as the rules of order and running the meeting,
I would have to look at the Robert's Rule of Order to make a motion, but I mean, if you can add something to the agenda, then at some point during the meeting, there has to be a process under the Robert's Rule of Order to add something to the agenda.
yeah, typically we have any additions or deletions to minutes. We have that in order in each agenda. We didn't have it this time because it was a special workshop meeting or a special meeting. I assume that's why it was not there. Well,
Commissioner Basso asked me what my next step was. This was my next step. Motion that we redo the job description so
And
that
Mike-
we're doing a consistency.
and Mike-
it falls in with the first item 3A on the agenda, what we just got done handling.
candidate interviews, yes, we just got done handling.
Now
We
we want to
decided
be able
to
to-
dismiss all of the all of the applicants.
Now we gotta correct our job description so that we go out with hiring new people. And that's what my motion deals with. Bring it up at the next available workshop so we can get on with it. If you don't want to do it, you want to wait till the next meeting, fine. It'll just delay that much more.
So let me,
You're not doing what the city wants. You're not doing what's best for the city.
thank you very much.
I appreciate that. That's the way you are.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, I didn't come here tonight to listen to you two lock horns, okay? One of you needs to recognize when one speaks, the other shuts up and move on. In my opinion, Cameron, you should say the motion fails on the count if it wasn't seconded, let's move on.
Okay, with that word of advice, and I appreciate it. There is a motion on the floor. If you would restate your motion, sir.
To rework our current job description to remove any consistencies at the next available workshop.
Is there a second to the motion? We have a motion. Motion dies for lack of a second. I would like to say that my intent would be, at this point, at the next meeting, to have an agenda item added that we do basically that we address that at the next meeting, so that everybody will be prepared in advance to advertise and start this process again. Is that basically what you're looking for?
We still need to bring it at a workshop to discuss the items so that we can finalize it at a meeting and approve it at a meeting.
Okay, so it's a call for a workshop as opposed to simply doing it at the next meeting. We have a workshop on the 4th of February.
I'm sorry, Thursday.
We have a workshop on the 2nd. Do you want to add that to the agenda for the workshop on the 2nd? Is that what you're asking?
If we want to expedite us getting back out into the hiring process, yes.
Well, the whole point of having this meeting today was to expedite, so I certainly do. Does anybody have any objections or thoughts about putting this on the agenda for the workshop meeting on the 4th?
Just direct staff accordingly.
Okay, so at this point, I believe we'll have that on the, what?
I didn't hear what you said.
He said we should direct staff accordingly to be prepared for that. So I believe that's what we'll do. We'll put it on that agenda, or put that on the agenda for the workshop meeting. Is it Thursday the 4th? The 2nd, excuse me, Thursday the 2nd. It'll be on that agenda, and staff will be prepared, and hopefully commissioners will as well. Item 3B, updating our cemetery records. Mr. City Administrator.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, the age of the Lake Helen Pasadena Cemetery is unknown, but it is ancient by all recollections. It has been the community cemetery for at least 100, if not longer, years. Unfortunately, the record keeping during the entire period has not always been up to par, and we have conflicting maps, conflicting records as to who is buried where, what lots are available for sale. And it is a very active cemetery. We do have a number of requests each year for burial plots, sometimes an individual, sometimes multiple plots for families. We would like to be able to bring in a group that does nothing but review the records, the maps, physically goes out in the field, reads headstones, does all the necessary work to produce a digitized location map of a cemetery so that we will know what we can sell, what's already been sold but not used, and what has been used by whom. That particular task, we only have recognized one organization in the entire country, which I know is hard to believe. We had it hard to believe too. We've only found one company that out of Minnesota that does this type of work. They've given us a proposal of $19,000. That proposal is based on the number of burial plots within our cemetery, which is estimated at approximately 2,000. So we would like to recommend that particular contract so we can bring these two individuals into the community and put them to work producing records that we can rely on in future years for the sale of cemetery plots within the city.
What was that price tag again?
$19,000.
$38.40.
$19,040.
Mayor, with all the fish that we have to fry right now, I will postpone doing this until we can see clear the budget.
The request was to postpone this particular agenda item until we get some other ducks in a row. Is that it?
He's going to be coming up against budget before too long anyway, and then we just go ahead and put it in next year's budget and do it that way. Yes, sir. I mean, we got enough other things we need to work on.
How pressing is the need would be my request, or my...
It depends on where the family wishes to be buried. If they want to be buried in the old section, that's very problematic. There are vast areas of the cemetery where very few people are buried, and so those areas are wide open. But if they want to be buried in the old section next to relatives or family friends or whatever, we are really uncertain in a lot of cases what is next to them, what's available to them. And
I have no doubt this needs to be done. I just look at our finances and this does not seem to be up on the priority list as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I guess what we have is a motion to table this item.
Yes.
Until a future meeting. So there's a motion to table, so that does not require discussion, I believe. Call a question on that. It's on one. It's just a motion to table, and we'll bring it back at a future meeting.
No.
Zone 2?
yes,
Zone 3, yes?
No.
And zone 4 is a no, so 2 yeas and 2 nays. I'll vote yes, and let's bring it back at a future meeting. So it's officially tabled. And since we didn't do additions and deletions to the minutes, I believe we were going to delete item 3C, is that correct? Or did we want to address 3C?
the 3C we'd like to leave on. It's ready to go.
Oh, okay, well then item 3C, approval of Stressbuster 5K contract. Mr. City Administrator.
We have a proposal from the same race company that ran our most recent race on December 31st. And, excuse me,
December 24th.
24th, December 24th. And anyway, they have submitted a proposal again for the next year. The proposal was same dollars as the ones we just operated, which was $15,009.
$495.
500 and
495.
495. But a couple of things to note, that is the cost of the company running the race. This particular year, we actually netted about $9,000 positively. So while we paid $15,000, we were actually able to bank about $9,000 into the general fund. So this is actually a moneymaker. Most of the money came from sponsorships as opposed to portions of the entry fees, but it's become an annual event for the city, and it is very much, for the staff's perspective, a slam dunk or a no-brainer. So we'd like to recommend the adoption of this particular contract for the same amount we had this year, understanding that it is based on 800 participants, and if there are more participants, then the cost would escalate accordingly. This year, it did the same thing. The original proposal was $13,000, and it escalated up to the $15,495, which is what the proposal we start at for next year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion from Commissioner Basso, and a second from Commissioner Eckert to approve the contract for the Stress Buster 5K. I know I have a couple blue cards here. Ms. Frasco, would you like to address this? And I'll say as you're coming to the mic, thank you for the last one. It was, again, tremendous success. Thank you.
Thank you. I just filled out a blue card in case you guys had any questions. I was here to answer.
I'm
Can you not
sorry.
hear me?
Not very well.
I filled out a blue card in case there was any questions.
Oh,
I
okay.
could answer.
Does anybody have any questions?
I do. Would you be opposed to using the city email that was assigned to you for the information on the stress buster instead of a personal one?
I provided the city email for registrants to contact me over sponsors.
So,
However, I did receive other emails, and I'd be more than happy to provide all those records to the city.
I just mean moving forward. I don't care.
Oh, I had it be set up for this year too,
Okay.
but it's just not how things were sent to me. As I've worked on this over the years, a lot of people have my personal email in addition. But I'm aware it's a public record, and I have no problem submitting it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Braxton?
Mayor?
Yes.
I forgot one thing. The commission needs to waive the formal bidding process too, because we're using the same company we used last year without formal bids, so.
Would you like to make that part of your motion, Mr. Bassett?
Yes. Motion to approve waiving the
Formal bidding.
formal bidding process.
Would you like to second that motion?
You can't make another motion, one of the motions on the table already.
Actually,
You can make an amendment.
Yeah,
I know we could, but.
You want to second the amendment?
Second amendment.
Okay, so now we have an amendment to the motion. I thought we could just put
Can I-
those two together.
Can I say something on that? In 2019, I went ahead and I went out for bids. And the reason why this particular company was selected was, one, they've been working with us since 2017 as a volunteer underneath Jennifer, Florida. They provided our registration services. Also, when we went out for bid, we did not get the retraction that we were looking for. Run for a Cause is an all-in-one business, so they handle everything from chip timing to ordering the shirts, design, website. They handle everything, and on all the day services also. So the problem we had is that other companies were not, some were not interested because it is on Christmas Eve morning, understandably, and others were only able to provide certain services, but we would have to collectively find more counterparts to handle the race. So we've been very pleased with their transparency. We receive our money, which is the biggest thing when it comes to our 5K race. So just wanted to add that in there.
Thank you, Ms. Preston. Appreciate that. I do have a blue card from Ranger. Yes, sir. Address the 5K.
day again, Randy James, 470 Blues Avenue, County. I just want to thank Kelly and to all those involved in supporting this wonderful event. It's a great thing for Lake Helen. It brings some of the gym back to the gym, and it's a good, healthy thing. And I just want to thank the city for all the support and having this event. Something else I just wanted to mention while I'm trying to read in here. You all notice all these air conditioned vents? Is that black mold and what is it? I'm not being funny, I'm being serious.
No, we spray that on occasionally just for effect.
Is that curious? I think I might address that.
We have a conversation on the budget.
But again, thank you very much to the city on everything. That's a positive event, and I think it's wonderful. And thank you to all of y'all involved in your support. It's a great event. Thank you. I'm still
Thank you,
Mr. 8 seconds. So I'm not saying. One other question. Back to something that was said earlier. I think all of us, including each one of y'all, I did send an email to every one of y'all and asked for Lee Everett's resignation. And I don't understand why nobody emailed me back. Except for Ken.
Okay, answer that. According to council, that when we respond to that, that can be construed as communicating with other commissioners.
Gotcha.
By email. So my phone is always open. If you want to call me personally,
Okay.
I don't answer any of them.
Thank you for clearing that up. But when I come up here and speak on those kind of issues, as a city appointed advocate, I'm speaking of the voice for all these people. So don't think that I'm the one that's thinking of all these issues that people call me, come to my house, go to Union Park, and address these important issues. And the important issues is maybe Rick didn't want to come to work because there's so much tension with Lee Everett. But that's not the only issue. So as an advocate, I'm telling you, right now I'm getting a whole lot of people from input asking for his resignation. And I wanted to ask this question. His term is up in, what, July 2023? No?
I work at the will of the commission.
He's under contract, and that contract is ongoing under the will.
This lets know the citizens, a tremendous, overwhelming amount of people have asked me that they're not happy with Lee Everett as our city administrator.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tyler.
Well, have a good day. Thank you for being here.
We have a motion and then an amendment to the motion. The amendment was to waive the formal bidding process for the company that we're contracting with. Call the question on that waiving of the formal bidding process. Zone 1?
Yes.
Zone 2?
Yes.
Zone 3? Yes. Zone 4?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So now we're back to the motion, the amended motion to accept the contract for the 5K, Stress Buster 5K with the waiving of the formal bidding process. Any further discussion on that motion? Zone 1?
Yes.
Zone 2?
Yes.
Zone 3?
Yes.
Zone 4?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Praska. Appreciate it. I'm glad we're doing it again. Item 3G, Lewis and Clark Circus.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, Lewis and Clark Circus has asked to come and perform within the Equestrian Center boundaries on March 9th to the 12th, setting up on the 6th and leaving on the 13th. Very similar to the circus we had last year, and they're out of South Carolina. And something like this I felt was important for the commission to recognize and know about and approve or disapprove. They're actually asking for nothing from the city. They're looking to pay $500 for the use of the Equestrian Center property during that period of time. And again, they're asking for nothing. They'll bring their own porta potties, provide their own electricity, etc. So we would recommend it.
Anybody want to make a motion?
There's no conflicts with any other activities going on there, is it?
Now, interestingly enough, the West Volusia Saddle Club is obligated to perform this before June 1st, I think. If any obligations or any time periods they wish to use the field, they never have done that. So, but I did call and ask them to coordinate with us. They said they had nothing scheduled, so there's nothing conflicting. But it's only because we reached out to them instead of them reaching out to us, but that's okay.
Is that $500, I guess I'm overlooking it on this schedule here, fee schedule, but I don't see it listed.
There is, yeah, it's to be determined for any kind
Okay.
like this. And that's why I wanted to inform you of that.
Yeah.
Make sure I do.
The actual application had language in there that the applicants are requested to donate at least 25% of the net revenues to the city. And so one, it was, they requested, it wasn't mandatory, and when you get into net revenues, what does net revenue mean, and then you gotta get into calculating it. So I was told, I thought a better thing would be just have a flat dollar, as opposed to getting into that issue, so.
Okay, so is that moving forward, it's going to be a flat rate, or it's just for this event? I didn't quite understand that.
I would suggest this event because there are other
Okay.
events that may be similar but not the same, maybe with a longer period of time, a shorter period of time. They maybe with additional services, this group didn't. So I'd like to be able to the extent possible, make it a as-needed fee based on the event.
Thank you.
The chair willing to entertain a motion on this item.
Motion to approve the circus.
Let's second it.
The motion from Commissioner Rutledge, a second from Commissioner Bishop to approve the Lewiston Park Circus as presented. Any further discussion?
I charge more money.
Insurance. For the service. You want it?
Apparently you don't want to tell us on that.
I just think $500 cheap. I mean, they're gonna set up one day, be open one day.
I'll set up on the 6th and leave on the 13th, so it's for an extended period of time.
How many?
They'll probably have, how many days they actually perform? They're performing 3 days.
3 days, so 4 days
There for
from
seven.
setup to breakdown, or 5 days setup,
I
breakdown?
suspect they're gonna be using us as a storage area for a couple of days as they go to next.
I don't know where you can get a facility for a week for $500, so add police support and city support. I mean, I understand it's good for the community, if it's good for everybody else, fine, but I don't see it as a, we're gonna be spending money to make this happen, that's all. And if that's what we wanna do, I'm okay, but I just going on record saying it's gonna cost us way more than $500 to do this.
Good. If I may just say one
Yes.
thing, the application also requires them to pay for staff time on top of the $500. So if, public works staff's involved, it's $30 an hour. So they could go up above 500 if they require additional services of city staff.
I don't think it requires any additional services from the city, does it? I didn't see that
No,
listed
but
here.
as of right now, they're not, but if they came in and said,
I love the circus, I don't want anybody to think that I don't.
I think you're right. That does seem like a low amount when they're going to be tied up the venue for, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, it's difficult to hear. It will tie up that venue for, what, 7 days? So that does seem low, although, what are your thoughts on that? Do you want to revisit that price with them, or does that price need to be fixed and maybe next year, if it's a success, we tell them that it's
This is their first time, and they don't know how many people will be coming to the facility. I'd like to leave it this price this year and see how we do, and then revisit it next year. If it's a great success, we'll certainly want more money next year.
Who's paying the electric?
They're paying electric.
Was that a
The question was who will be paying for the electric, and they will. Yeah.
They will, okay.
Yes. Any further discussion?
What about offering them $500 minimum, or 25%, whichever is greater?
Well, and we could do that. What the city attorney mentioned, though, is very true. You get into the idea, because they brought up the question, is that gate sales at the time limits? Is it online sales? Is it for concession sales? Is it for whatever sales they have? And then who's gonna verify the sales? And it becomes an auditing nightmare, to tell you the truth.
All those transactions deal with honesty. So if they're not honest, they're not gonna tell you the truth. If they're honest, they'll tell you the truth.
Well, I don't know there's an easy answer, but I think $500 is a fair number for the first year.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Prescott, have a blue card for Ms. Prescott.
Yes, hi, Kelly Fresca, 616 John Street. A couple things, as I worked with the services in the past, when we first had Zerbini Family Circus begin to come to the city, I believe, and you would have to go back into records and see, but I believe the first year we charged like $700 because we had never known who they were. See, we don't know how they leave the ground. You know, it was a bunch of different factors, so we had that security net. However, the longest they have stayed was the night before the first day of the circus. It's only been, the longest it's been is 2 days, and they're out of there right after that last show on the second day of the circus. Now they typically did 1 day, but after we saw that they were responsible and respectful to our property, it went down to, I believe, 500, or maybe less. As far as electric, I know that the Saddle Club pays for the electric. Is that something that they pay directly, or do they give money to the city, and how will that be deducted?
They actually pay the water for the electric bill. It goes to them and or it comes to us and they reimburse us.
Well,
Will we read the meter before the circus comes in and rereading it when they leave? Is that how we'll do that?
They have their own generator.
Oh,
they're
work
not
in front of their own
using
generator.
it. Okay, I thought I heard that it was
Well, yeah,
supposed to be used.
that is what was said, but
And
they are providing their own generator.
And they're providing porta potties,
Correct.
so that way they're not using the bathrooms. Understood. Yeah, that is a quite low number, too.
Yeah, I thought it was a little low. They
For
said
the days
Are they
used.
handicapped accessible to porta potties?
that'll be up to them to comply with those regulations.
Okay, also, my main question is Zerbini Family Circus coming this February, as they have in the past?
They have not indicated that.
Okay, because my concern would be to notify the this circus if we have a circus the month prior, because that would interfere with their sales. I think that transparency would have been necessary, but as Zerbini Circus has not, then I wouldn't need to worry about that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Ms. Smith, I lost you.
Right
Call in here? Oh, there.
Yes.
I have a blue card here, but I'm not sure when I got it. Which item were you wanting to address?
We haven't got to, I gave a yellow
Okay.
card. We haven't got something.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I didn't pass you by at the wrong time. Okay. Any further discussion on the contract with the service? Hearing none, I'll call the questions. Zone 1,
Yes.
Zone 2,
Yes.
Zone 3, yes, Zone 4,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion carries unanimously. We're having a circus. That's a good thing. Everybody noticed it. It's not unexpected. Okay. Lost my page. What's our next agenda item? I'm sorry.
Holidays.
Holidays. Over to you, city administrator, for the holiday.
We're recommending today that we remove that we currently have as the half day before Christmas Eve and a half day before New Year's Eve. Not before the day or before Christmas, but the half day before Christmas Eve. And that would reduce our number down to 14 holidays. And there still is a question, which I think Ms. Smith is going to bring up. We have a federal holiday that's been created since we discussed holidays during the budget session. And, that is Juneteenth, not a federal holiday. and how are we going to recognize that? So my recommendation tonight is, though, we simply lower it from 15 holidays down to 14 holidays for city employees, that being 2 half-days that we're recommending to not celebrate as holidays.
Do you need this as a motion?
Yes, yes.
Chair is open.
Actually,
For a motion.
it won't be effective until next year. We'll have a budget session before that, so. maybe-
So if I heard that correctly, you want to eliminate the 2 half-days on the 2 different events, which takes 2 days off and then add 1 day. So really what you're saying is when you rework it, you want to subtract 1 paid day.
Well, if I want to remove 1 full day by doing with 2 half-days,
Right.
then Juneteenth would be a separate discussion. If you want to recognize that, we're back where we started at 15.
Gotcha. Okay. I have to see follow federal recommendations.
Well, the federal for Juneteenth would be, like, as the administrator said, would be a second motion. But your request for eliminating these first 2 half-days, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we adjust the holidays as presented by the city administrator.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Ackert, second from Commissioner Rutledge to adjust the holidays as presented by the city administrator. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call question. Zone 1?
Yes.
Zone 2?
Yes.
Zone 3?
Yes.
Zone 4?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Have further discussion about Juneteenth, adding Juneteenth as a recognition of the federal holiday. I have a motion for that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a motion.
So I would like to have,
Because his motion was to accept his recommendation, the recommendation was to take 2 off, put 1 on.
And then he also said they would
let's
address
just take
this.
2 half-days off was his recommendation.
Okay, I heard it all.
It's all in there, but
I think we need to look into it further because there's a lot of conflicting across the United States on the Juneteenth on whether it's a mandatory requirement or not.
If we just go ahead and do it,
Well, we already celebrate a lot of holidays without taking the day off already. It could be one of those holidays that we celebrate without taking the day
it's
off.
not a point of contention for me. Whatever you decide, I can be fine.
I think we should add that to a workshop in a future reference before the next pay sign or budget workshop to see how that's going to work out.
So as a point of clarification, Mr. City Administrator, when you made your initial presentation, because now I'm confused along with Commissioner Bassett as to whether or not that was part of your initial.
No,
It was not, okay. So,
the recommendation.
that's fine,
was
just
to
double
do
check.
that. The rest is informational.
okay. So okay, we can put Juneteenth on the future agenda item and look into that prior to that. So if you would make a note to add that to our future agenda.
Yeah, I'd have a tendency to add it to when you start the budget thing and you're looking at employees and payrolls, et cetera, et cetera. That's when I would deal with it. I mean, that would seem to be the appropriate time to deal with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of holidays out there that are recognized by the federal government that nobody takes celebrating, I think, but it's still recognized as.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Well, so we don't need any further discussion on holidays. We move to item 4, commission and staff discussion. Commissioners.
I had a blue card.
I'm
I'm sorry.
Yeah, public forum is fine.
It was actually about the holidays.
Oh,
I'm sorry, she was going up and I was trying to fill it out.
okay, yeah, just
I know,
name, I thought it was-
it's a scribble.
So
Do you mind?
Yes.
Yes.
Addressing holidays.
Nancy Beery, 435 West Delaware. I'm just kind of curious what those holidays are. I know public Works was closed for 11 days straight between Christmas and New Year's. And 7 of those were business days and 2 complete weekends. I'm not sure what City Hall was, but I know other municipalities and government entities did not have that kind of complete closure. And I don't think we should. And not that I don't respect our workers, but I don't believe that's responsible. I think that we should find a way, maybe rotate people on and off, you know, come up with some kind of plan. But can somebody name what those 14, 15 days are?
I'm sure as a public records request, we could certainly come up with an answer to exactly what those holidays are. So I'll need you to do that for us. And
Is that time, is that 7 business days included in that 14 days?
we did have this.
The city administrator has the right to allow people to take vacation and personal time, and that's what occurred from those 7 days, is they took vacation and personal
Well,
time.
some of those people were on probation, they got 7 days paid. I mean, and not that I'm opposed to them personally, I think that we should be smart. And if you want to give them off, rotate it so that somebody's always on staff. I think it's just a responsible thing
The
to
city
do.
the city administrator did bring that to the commission prior to that.
I don't think it was for that quite a long period of time. It was supposed to be half days.
We approved his request.
That's one of the things in policies that we need to adjust to correct that problem.
The way it fell this year, he requested that we shuffle a couple of things and allow that long window. And it was controversial, that's why I brought it before us, as opposed to just doing it without discussion. And we did discuss it before the commission did discuss it, and we did approve that.
I think we'd like to, if you went back.
Hindsight, you're more than welcome to tell us it was a bad idea, and maybe it was, but we did discuss it.
Well, I know even supervisor of elections, a lot of them just did long 4-day weekends.
I understand there's a lot of ways to skin that cat.
Well, and I believe
And
the
we
way that you
discussed
left
it
it
at that time.
was his discretion, and that there was going to be a day or 2 break in between.
As I said, we discussed it, and he did bring it to the commission, we discussed it, and it was approved in advance, rather than it being just something that was done off the cuff. That was a commission decision. Commissioners, it's time for commission and staff discussions. I'll turn it over to commissioners. If any of you have anything you want to bring forward?
I have nothing at this time.
Commissioner Carter,
Ready with your example?
this is your time.
I won't interrupt you. Watch. I am sick and tired of all the lying, deceptions, misrepresentations, underhanded, under-the-table actions taking place. I am tired of all the disrespect, unprofessional activities being done by our administration and staff. Our administrator has failed my evaluations for lack of communications, and this has been reinforced by our citizens and business representatives who tried to build in Lake Helen. The commissioners who believe Mr. Everett is our savior need to take their rose-colored glasses and blinders off and see the truth. Remember all the statements made by the business representatives at our meetings, how Mr. Everett does not return phone calls? He appears to not like dealing with people and has used every opportunity to remove any that he could. Why is our public works department in such a shambles, not wanting to make it easy to hire a new public works department head? Why is he so wanting to outsource our water department and other departments? Why is he being so unreasonable at the Lake Helen PD union contract meetings? Our administrator has set us up for a number of lawsuits and will walk away, leaving us holding the bag. He does not look out for the best interest of the city of Lake Helen. I make a motion that we schedule a termination hearing for cause to terminate Lee Everett's appointment with us.
There's a motion before us.
Could you repeat the motion one more time, Roger? Could you repeat the motion one more time, please? I want to be sure I heard you clearly.
I make a motion that we schedule a termination hearing for cause to terminate Lee Everett's appointment with us.
The motion to terminate, well, I don't need to restate it. Thank you for restating it. Is there a second to the motion?
Before I second it, Roger, would you mind reading the very first sentence again? Because you said something and I was going to interrupt, but I didn't. Just read it again and then I have a question. The first sentence. I'm sick and tired.
The first two sentences.
Maybe it might have been two, but I'll stop you this time. That's it.
I am sick and tired of all the lying, deceptions, misrepresentations, underhanded, under-the-table actions taking place.
Period. By whom?
That comes out in the second sentence.
Okay.
The staff, the
I
administration and
I
staff.
kind of felt like we were getting lumped into that, and then that's why I was wanting to stop you. Okay? Because I don't think I lied or misrepresented. Don't think I have. Not going to.
The problem with the commission, since we're all only 1/5, we kind of get grouped together whether we're at fault or not. And it's something that I've just been willing to accept when citizens complain about as commissioners. I accept it. You know, I'm only 1/5 of the whole problem.
Well, I also understand that, sometimes when people complain, they're right. Sometimes when people complain, they're not.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to discern the difference. The big thing, and I heard it said to me a long time ago, is it our responsibility to do what the citizens want us to do, or is it our responsibility to do what we think is best for our citizens? Because they're not always congruent. But anyway, back to what you were putting together.
In answer to that, our citizenry, to retain its trust in government, must have confidence that those in public service are at all times acting in the best interest of the public. As stewards of the public trust, government leaders and employees have a fiduciary responsibility to act in a manner that is fair and unbiased, that is loyal to the public by putting public interest before personal gain, and that fulfills duties of competency, integrity, accountability, and transparency. In fulfilling these duties, public officials will encounter predictable ethical dilemmas which arise out of their roles as public servants. That's from Helen Callahan at Ethics Meeting.
And how would this hearing go? Is that something that you want to weigh in on, Scott?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to, I need to look at his contract, because we say for cause. So if you're going to do a for cause hearing, then you're going to need to outline what the cause is, in detail, and give the time to respond to it. So that, if that's what I need to see what his contract says. I don't think our code requires a for cause hearing, and I know for sure cause in his contract is limited. One of the limitations by state law is, usually when you say for cause, you're saying we don't want to pay him severance. That's what you're getting at when you say for cause. One of the grounds that's required in state law is basically, if you were to terminate leave for grounds that would disqualify him for unemployment insurance, that's the for cause that the law requires to be added into his contract. I don't know if there's anything else in the contract that would require authorize for cause. However, he does serve at your pleasure, and you don't have to have a for cause hearing to terminate him. You can terminate him in any meeting. If there's enough votes to terminate him, but he would be entitled to a severance. And so it sounds like to me you are trying to have a for cause hearing so the city could terminate for a basis that you think would disqualify him for severance. If you're going down that route, I need to look at his contract, and you're going to have to put together the basis for the for cause termination and for due process purposes, and provide that to Lee well in advance so he can respond to it. So you just can't have the hearing and then talk about it. You're going to have to go through a due process. You don't have to do that if you don't want to for cause. If you just want to terminate him, you can do that at any time.
Well, the cause is that he's not looking after the best interest of the city by his actions in his dealings with the people that want to build businesses in here and with the citizenry. I can also contact a whole bunch of people and have witnesses that will back up those statements.
Well, in my opinion, what you just said was a conclusion. What you just said was a conclusion. And you would almost need to say this.
Well, you wanted to know what the cause was. The cause was that.
That's a conclusion. A cause is, what are the individual situations so that Lee would have an opportunity to respond to what happened in that particular situation. You've concluded that he was not looking after the city's best interest, but Lee needs to be able to present counter evidence that would offset that, maybe
Okay.
offset the conclusion, so.
Mr. Hurley's attorneys have said that Lee has not returned calls and it has been hard to work with them.
And there,
I don't know that
well, that's something I know about, and I can tell you I have a lot of information to provide that if you want to have a discussion about that. So I would not jump to conclusions based on what Mr. Hurley said.
And
So I would skip that one.
the company that wanted to build the mobile home repair place after Lake Helen said that Lee did not return his calls during all the times he attempted to contact the city. There's been a number of citizens that have said that he has not returned their.
What I'm saying is you don't need to tell me now. I'm
Well,
saying
you wanted to know my cause.
I said you need to outline your cause before the hearing, provide it to Lee, so he has time to respond. Telling me doesn't matter. You gotta give it to Lee in advance, if he has the time to respond. You should outline it in writing and say, these are the issues we believe we want to have a hearing on to see if it justifies a for-cause termination. And then you can put together your list, and at the, workshop, if you want, you can present it to the commission, the commission can vote and say, yeah, we'll go forward and have a hearing on these issues. But that's the way to do it. So he has a due process to respond.
Well, I need to sit down with you to go through everything to make sure it's all done correctly.
Yeah, we can do that. I'm just trying to outline, and I'm glad to talk to you about situations I was involved in. I didn't speak at the last meeting because I didn't think it'd be very productive, what I had to say. But I was involved in a lot of that. So it really wasn't, and that was things said at the planning board is what I'm referring to. And it may come up again at our next city commission meeting. I'm not going to respond to them with that because it's not an issue, how he performed, did perform, responded is not an issue in the vote of the policy change for the comprehensive plan. I didn't want to interject my opinion into that because that was derail the whole size of everything the planning board which really should be focusing on. But I was involved in it, and I can give you my opinion about it.
I think probably that's why most municipalities, unless something's egregious, they wind up just paying to move on. And I know that puts a sour taste in your mouth, I get it. But
And that's where all the statements about the deceptions and misrepresentations that come in and everything, there's a lot of
I understand.
what I call underhanded activities going on that puts up smoke screens on everything and hides what's really going on.
It's possible.
And that we need to address before we file for bankruptcy.
So there's a motion on the table, and so far I'd like to second this. Anybody care to second the motion?
Well, I'd like a little discussion, just because I hear what you're saying, Roger, I do, and it's my understanding that we're going to have this more in-depth conversation at our next workshop on the 2nd. I think that might be, give us a little time to speak with Scott about any concerns we have and figure out when you said with cause, that may give us time to get our thoughts together with or without cause. So I'm agreeable to having the conversation, absolutely, but I would like to do it in the workshop on the 2nd.
I'm okay with that as well, and I'm just going to say this about being around for 5 different administrators. A smooth transition from one to the next is the best thing for everyone. It's the best thing for everyone. And I don't know how to make that happen, but it would be my wish that it would happen. And so, maybe in this whole conversation about the public works director, what we really need to be doing is starting a search for a new administrator and let that new administrator be helpful in the part of hiring a new public works director. I don't know. It seems like the whole house is getting burned down. We're starting all over, but so that happens sometimes.
The only problem with that, unless Lee turns in a recommendation or a notice to us that he's planning on leaving at a certain time, having somebody else come in to make that transition happen is hard to do. So
The only time I've ever seen that done is when the current manager administrator is retiring and is involved in the hiring process of the new manager administrator, and then there's a transition there. That's the only time I've actually seen that work.
So the motion has, in my opinion, the motion is adopted without a second, unless I hear a second. It can be put on a future agenda by any commissioner and add something to a future agenda. So if you wish to do so, Mr. Eckert, you can, or
I like Heather's idea of going ahead and having a workshop then so that we can discuss this issue.
we are having a workshop, and you can add that to the agenda if you wish.
It's my understanding it's already on that. When we talked at the last meeting, we agreed to bring up concerns and how to move forward under this commission. So I believe it's already on there for the second.
Okay, so it's on the agenda for the second.
Could someone, Roger, I'm not saying it's something all on you, bring some of those concerns up to Scott so we can have some legal perspective on what it is? It seems to it might accelerate the process for us, it might make it less laborious if he has the information ahead of time. That way he can review it and he's prepared to respond, and then we can listen to it. If anybody else has anything to share, do the same. I just think that would be most effective.
Yes, I agree.
Are you, I'm not cutting you off, are you complete?
Yes, on the good side, the American Legion is having Food Truck Wednesdays, the second and fourth of every Wednesday. And for those that like the flavor of whiskeys and rums and everything, but don't like the alcohol, we do have non-alcohol whiskeys, rums, and tequilas available to mix your drinks with. So come on out to American Legion and enjoy your time.
Mr. Bassett?
I'm exhausted.
I understand.
That's it.
I understand. Commissioner Bishop?
Well, I had written this to read at a future meeting, so this seems to be the perfect opportunity. I would like to take this opportunity to appeal to my fellow commission. There are numerous issues and concerns within our local government that need to be addressed. We have a wonderful opportunity to come together as a cohesive group and correct and implement policy that will greatly benefit our community. I am asking that we put forth more time and energy into doing the job we were elected to do. 2 to 3 meetings or workshops per month as opposed to only one for the next 6 months could make a world of difference and bring the city to a more professional status. I ask that we roll up our sleeves and do this hard work. We owe this much to our community. So today it has been brought out that we do have policy issues, and I've been speaking on that for the last 2 years. So I believe that we need to sit down and review the policies, implement ones that are not being followed at this time, and maybe write some new ones or whatever. But it needs to happen.
Thank you. In response to that, I agree that one meeting per month does not give us adequate time or frequency for good communication. It makes it very difficult. Communication has been a theme this afternoon in much of what's been going on. And I do believe that additional meetings, we're having 3 within a 2-week period now. And that's part of the reason why. I wanted to increase our communication. I wanted to move forward on several things, but it's when you meet once a month and it takes 2 or 3 conversations to have it, they're 2 or 3 months out. If we increase our frequency, I think that would help that. So I have increased frequency largely for that reason. And I believe you're right. As far as specific policies, when we get to those discussions, if you could, again, make it, not again, but if that could be a specific thing, not just kind of, we need to talk about policies, but here are some policies that we, yeah. there's nothing wrong with saying we need to look at policies, but when we get to it, we gotta have something in front of us to look at. That would be very helpful. My turn for comments. It's been an interesting meeting. I do appreciate, as I've said a couple of times, everybody's input. I would also like to say that I am trying to run civil meetings and to organize them and keep them moving forward. I try and recognize everybody in due course. I try to give everybody all the time they need to speak to each item on the agenda and then in public forum to anything that might come to mind. So I am never ever trying to squelch input or conversation. If it appears that I am, let me know, because I don't know how to be any more open with the city's time than I'm being. I'm giving everybody pretty much all the time they want. Sometimes the 3 minutes are up, and I can let them go beyond that. But I am doing my best to be open and available as a commission, to have all of us being open and available for everything we have to say and for everything that the community might have to say. I do want that to be done in a civil and respectful manner. And I will ask the commission to seek that as well. I don't much know a better way to say that. I think we need to be civil to one another. I think we need to be respectful to one another. And I will endeavor to continue to do that. If I have been uncivil or disrespectful, I apologize. And if you call me on that at any given point in time, I will listen to that, and I will be attentive to that, because I always do want to bring that to the table here. I want to be professional, civil, and respectful to everyone who comes before the dais. We have now public remarks. So it's public forum. I have 3 cards before me. The first one is from Buddy Snow.